Okay, good morning. So this is lesson 2 of the borrowers. If you haven't done the first lesson, I suggest you go back and look for that link. It's on a YouTube link. So I am doing this on the same day because of my internet connection. So it's not that I haven't changed my top, it's that I'm filming it on the same day. So I'm going to share with you my character description. It's something that if you didn't get this at the end of yesterday's, this is what we're working on today. So today I am taking all the information, or I have taken all the information that we would have generated from yesterday's lesson on one of these sheets or the subheadings, the appearance of the person, their family, their likes, their dislikes, their job potentially, and any other ideas, along with the drawing of them that's all labelled. We're going to be taking all those ideas and putting them together into separate paragraphs. You're going to be using each paragraph to talk about something different about the personality of your borrower. So, mine by all means isn't perfect. There's lots of editing to do, and we'll maybe be doing that tomorrow with a bit of light editing in order to improve, because there's always ways to improve these. So it's just an idea. I'm going to work through it. I'm going to explain how each section has got a different theme, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So, Etna Dust is 13 years old. She lives with her mum, Helen, and dad, Chris Dust, and is a free spirit, which means that she makes her own rules sometimes and does things to make herself happy, however strange or wacky they might seem to her family. Etna isn't concerned about human beings and doesn't seem to understand the potential danger that they might bring. Okay, so that's just a short introduction about Etna, but also discusses her family and her personality, really. Etna has a long face, rosy cheeks, and an angular jaw, which is made softer by untidy, wavy red hair that always seems to blow in front of her face. Etna always seems to chew her plaits, which makes her mum upset as she spends lots of time brushing and plaiting it at the start of each day to try and keep it under control. Etna has bright blue eyes and a delicate mouth with a freckled button nose and freckled face. So there is clearly, it's about how she actually looks, but I've put in there to keep it interesting. I've talked also about her mum and kind of the care that the bond they share together. So obviously they spend a lot of time together and spend time plaiting hair and things like that. So I've put that into that description as well. Edna is a borrower. She is average height for a borrower, just a little shorter than her dad, but a little taller than her mum. She is tall in stature and much like an Olympic swimmer, which helps when she needs to perform acrobatics when on borrowing missions. She has a face that makes you question what you've just said. It's not an unkind face, but it isn't overly kind either. She's a typical teenager. So there, I've talked again a little bit about her personality, but also about her height. So she's a bit shorter than her dad, a bit taller than her mum, because they're good comparisons. Because it's quite hard to say a comparison that we might use, or tall as a house, because actually they're borrowers, so they're much smaller than us. So I've used the direct comparison so you can think about how you are in relation to your family as well. So it's good to use things like that. You might also use like just taller than a cup, for example, or as wide as an apple. Maybe not, but it's just an idea. I've also talked about, I suppose, her attitude, how her face, a bit like a teenager, it can be a bit stroppy, but I haven't completely said she's a stroppy teenager. I've just said that it always makes you question what you've just said, like what you've just said isn't right because she's looked at you like What are you doing? So I've thought about that in there. What I would go on to talk about is maybe the job the dad does, or the mum, or indeed if she's got a job for that would fit somebody who's 13 years old. Because she is that age, I might not write directly about her job, but that's how I'd carry on, and I'd leave another paragraph and put another paragraph in about that. I quite like how it's ended on she is a typical teenager, because that's a good point to end, and that will link into the next paragraph, where we'll talk about where she lives and describe that. That's later on this week. So today's task is a writing task. We're going to write up all the character description we've got. Now, I'm not saying you can't start again, but it would be much better if you build on yesterday's work and you reread it and you maybe do some edits, but don't completely throw it away and start again. I would like you to be building on each time this week, making it better and better and better. Now, this itself isn't by any means perfect, but there are elements that I can change. And even in reading it again for the fourth time, I'm thinking, oh, I might change that. So you might see a change next time we see this piece of work. That is really good practice, and all writers redraft and redraft until it's perfect, and they keep reading, and they might read it aloud to loved ones and see what their reaction is, and to listen to advice from your parents, because they'll be able to read it just from a different point of view, and they might be able to add to that, and that's fantastic. So we've got to keep our listening ears open to suggestion and slight changes. Okay. I hope this goes well, and again, I hope I don't have to drive into school to upload this, but if I do have to, I will, and I'll do it nice and early for you tomorrow. So, the aim is, by the end of today, so at the end of Tuesday, we'll have had a written character description in the form of several paragraphs, so maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. They can be short, but 3 or 4 paragraphs separated with the ideas you're talking about. That would be amazing, and I look forward to either hearing them or reading them. So you can type them out and send them in, lovely, or you can type it straight on Dojo, or you can write it down and take a picture, or you can read it out. It's entirely up to you, but if you're going to read it out, just do a snippet of it, your favourite bit, and that'd be lovely to hear and see. Brilliant.